Well, hello again, and welcome to your guitar lesson, which now brings us up to number 26, and in fact, the completion of the Level 2 lessons. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to play through all those earlier pieces that you studied and see if you now can play along with them more or less up to time. We're going to have a short test for you to check your own progress with. And finally, I'm going to give you some recommendations for further study, some useful additions and materials. So that's a very important thing, I think. And you might want to have a pencil and paper, both for your test and for some of these recommendations. So now let's get in tune as quickly as we can. Right, let's start with Greensleeves, one of the favorite tunes for about 5 centuries. And let's see if we can do this now in time. A little lilt to it is nice, a little feeling of, it's not quite a dance, but it shouldn't plod along either. All right, are you ready? Count of 2, and off we go. 1, 2. Remember with that also that it's permissible to ripple those chords a little bit. A nice effect as long as it isn't done too much. All right, let's pass straight on to the country dance and see who can do that one. 6/8 time, so you get a count of 5 and come in on 6. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. All right, a little lilt to that because that's definitely meant to be a dance. And I think that's probably one you found perhaps the easiest. Now, let's move on and do the rondo. The time is 3/4, and in this case you get a count of 2 and you come in 3 and. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3 and 1. right, you can repeat the first section. I think it sounds nice if you play the first part twice, but in the interest of time, we did it just once that time. Right, let's move on now to the Carulli study and see how you did with that. Now the count here is 4/4 time, and what you'll get is 1, 2, 3, and you come in and 4 and not too fast at the beginning. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 1, 2. An interesting workout of various sorts of time there, and of course what you have to watch for is not to go too fast at the beginning, because otherwise the 16th notes suddenly come on you and are terribly, terribly fast. All right, our final one now, Kemp's Jig. Let's have a look at that. 4/4 time here, and why don't you find that bar, the half bar chord, to get started? You got it? All right, fairly quick count of 4, watch out for it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Remember with Kemp's Jig to make the tone contrast. It makes it a lot more fun. Now let's get to our test. The first group consists of a number of short little bits of single-line music that I want you to play and count correctly. Now here you're going to have to be your own judge a little bit. When I give you the correct answer, you will know whether you did it correctly or not. All right, let's see our first one now. And all I'm going to do is give you a count of 3, slow count of 3, and I want you to count and play the example. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Right, let's move to the next one. You just get one shot at these. 6/8 time, watch out. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, the next one, 4/4 time. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the next one, not really as complicated as it looks, in 2/4 time. You ready? 1, 2. And finally another one in 6/8 time. You ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. All right, now the next little group is for note recognition. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put up in quick succession a series of notes with a string number beside them, and I want you just to tell me what fret that note is. All right? You can write these down if you want for reference. Are you ready? Here's number 1. An A at the 6th string, what fret is it? All right, here's the next one. On the 4th string, also an A. Which fret is that? Now, in the next one, an F on the 2nd string. What fret for that? And the next one, a high C. Now, this G on the 4th string, where is that? And now the B flat on the 5th string. Where do we find that one? And the final one, a B flat again, but this time on the 6th string. Where is that one? All right. Now, a couple of true or false questions for you, or you have to choose between an A and a B option. Are you ready? All right. Slurs. To do an upward slur, we found that you hammer to join the two notes together. You sound the first and hammer to sound the second one. To do the descending or downward slur, is it correct to say that I play the upper note and do the same movement in reverse, take it away to sound the lower note? Or B, should I play the upper note and pull with the string, with the left-hand finger to sound the second note? Which of those two is correct? Number 2, vibrato. Vibrato is done by pressing the finger up and down lightly to produce a slight variation in the note, or moving the finger from side to side while keeping the tip on the string. Which of the two, A or B? All right, let's think about tone contrasts. If I want to get a more silvery or metallic sound, should I play by the bridge or should I play over the sound hole? Which will give me the more metallic sound? All right, the bar. Let's consider the half bar now. A half bar covers 3 strings because that's half the number of strings. True or false? A half bar is half the number of strings and covers 3 strings. All right, a question now on the full bar. To do a nice full bar, the first finger should be placed approximately equally between the 2 frets. Or B, to do a nice complete full bar, the first finger should be placed right up by the fret. Which of the two is correct? All right, let's go back now to the beginning and let's see some answers. Here's our first example, and what I was after was this count. 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. The tricky one being the last one where the dotted quarter note came on the second beat of the bar. It's a little bit trickier. Let's look at the second example. The count I was after was this, in 6/8 time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was to remind you that the dotted quarter note is different and in some ways easier to count when you're in 6/8 time. Next example, for your 16th notes, the count I was after was this: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and a 2 and 3E and 4. Remembering your 1-eanders, and let's go straight on to the next one of 16th notes. And here's the count I was hoping for in 2/4 time: 1E and a 2 and 1E and a 2 and 1E and a 2 and 1, 2. Moving right on to the 6/8 time. Again, a check on those dotted quarter notes. What I was looking for was simply this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now let's get to the notes, note recognition and fret numbers. Let's look at the first one now, and the correct answer is the 5th fret. We'll go right through these. Next one, the A, is the 7th fret. Then the F on the 2nd string, 6th fret. Your high C there is the 8th fret on the top string. 4th string G there is the 5th fret. And the B flat there on the 5th string is the 1st fret. Maybe you were looking for something more complicated. And finally, that same B flat played on the 6th string would come out at the 6th fret. All right, I hope you got a good proportion of those. Now, technique, our true and false. On the question of slurs, the downward slur is not performed by just taking the finger off. The slur is correctly performed by pulling the string, preferably down into the fingerboard like this. At times, it's not possible to do this if you have to sound the adjacent string at the same time, because to pull sideways would in fact kill off that string if it's meant to be still ringing. But whenever you can, you pull downwards into the fingerboard. All right, and the question of vibrato, it is not done by lifting the finger up and down. That is sometimes done in the violin. The correct vibrato, you keep the fingertip on the same spot and move the hand to side, one side to the other. Tone contrasts. To get a silvery sound, we play by the bridge, keeping the warmer sounds to come from over the sound hole. Bars. A half bar is not just the top 3 strings. A half bar is anything less than a full bar. It's an inaccurate term. It's rather an unfortunate one, but it is a convention. A half bar is 5, 4, 3, or 2 strings. On the complete bar, the answer I was looking for was that you put the finger right up to the fret. To put a bar finger just neatly between 2 frets would result in almost perpetual buzzing and would be very unsatisfactory. All right, well, I hope you got most of the answers right. I'm sure you did. Now, before we finish, I'd like to show you a couple of things that you've inquired about, particularly books that you'd like to use to go on to the next stage. And if I had to make one single selection, it would, in fact, be this book, I think, Solo Guitar Playing, published by Schirmer Books, which is a division of the Macmillan Company. It's a large book, over 200 pages, takes you through the various positions on the fretboard with exercises, and also gives you a large repertoire of pieces to keep you busy for probably at least a year and possibly as much as 2. Those of you who in fact go beyond that, there is indeed a second volume, so there's enough to keep a person busy for quite a while. If I had to choose myself for a desert island book from amongst mine, it would be Solo Guitar Playing, I think. Now, for those of you who would like to go at a slightly slower pace, this is perhaps an easier book. It's the same sort of thing, the elementary material that we've been going through, but in fact there's a little more in terms of graduated easy pieces. So for a quarter pace, if you like, try this one. For those of you who are more interested in the flamenco side of things and also the folk songs, this is a general book about some of the fun aspects of the guitar in terms of song accompaniment, and it also has a certain amount about blues, flamenco, and allied subjects, even calypsos. For repertoire, for those of you who are seriously seeking repertoire, I've done 3 books of different periods, which are illustrated with solos, and also they have duets and some songs in them as well. And you'll find that the pieces have study notes to them that give you a little idea about the piece and help you through some of the difficult spots. 3 of these in the series: classical, Baroque, and Renaissance guitar, published by Ariel Music Publications. Nice flamenco book that caught my eye, this one by Juan Serrano. It's a Mel Bay publication, and for those of you who really got hooked on flamenco, you might want to explore this one. Now, the question of magazines. I told you before about the Guitar Review, Guitar Player, and Guitar and Lute magazines. Here's another that I think you may enjoy. It's published in Chicago by James Sherry, and it's an interesting sort of collection of articles, chit-chat about the guitar world, coming events, and so on. Something I think you'll enjoy. Also by the publishers of Guitar Player, Frets magazine, with a lovely picture of Segovia on the front here. And this magazine is perhaps even more interesting to you than Guitar Player because it concerns a little more our sort of guitar. Finally, the Soundboard, which is the product of the Guitar Foundation of America. This has an academic turn to it and will be of great interest to those of you who get quite serious about the classical guitar and become interested in its history and the history of its composers and so on. Now, sheet music presents us with quite a problem because there is so much of it, and the difficulty, of course, is choosing. The only thing I can recommend to you is go by the editors, know your editors, and stay with the good ones. For instance, the Guitar Archives, the Andres Segovia edition, obviously with Segovia at the helm, the editions are going to be very nice, and indeed they are. Another well-known edition is that of Emilio Pujol on Max Eschig, and you recognize this little typical symbol on almost all those publications. From Austria, Karl Scheidt and the Universal Edition, well printed, and a number of good pieces for beginners as well as advanced ones. From England, the Faber Company, a very, very nice edition of Julian Bream's arrangements, which clearly are well printed and very nicely fingered. Last but not least, a book here of guitar duets. I've recommended the pleasure of playing duets, and this one, Das Gitarrespiel, my copy is a little battered because I've used it very happily for a number of years. Das Gitarrespiel, Volume 13 of Bruno Henze. And finally, an edition of Our Title Music has now come out, published by G. Schirmer, and it shows the music, the complete music for the titles, and also another piece, a ballet by Gluck from the opera Orpheus and Eurydice. It's rather a charming piece, I think, a little wistful in sound, and I'd like to play it for you now as a sort of farewell to these second-level lessons. Again, the sort of piece that you can expect to play yourselves, I think, before too long, because it's not too difficult, this one. The full title, then, The Ballet of the Contented Spirits, from the opera Orpheus and Eurydice by Gluck.